Or actually, let's start with the Catholic Reformation. So let's start with that section. The Catholic Reformation. How did the Catholic Church respond and reform in light of the Reformation? Okay, now, interestingly enough, some historians refer to this as the Catholic Reformation. Some people refer to it as the Counter-Reformation. Both terms are useful to know and useful to think about just a little. If you're going to call it the Catholic Reformation, then this suggests that the Catholic Church is, reforming for whatever reasons, because it needs to reform. And certainly we saw reform efforts within the church, like Erasmus and other reformers, Thomas More, these northern Christian humanists. But the term Counter-Reformation much more clearly implies that this is a Reformation in response to the Protestant Reformation. So it suggests that the Catholics are reforming in light of the Protestant issues and responding to the Protestant challenge. So how does this Catholic or Counter-Reformation take place? What are parts of it? Well, the Council of Trent is the institutional part. In other words, this is what the hierarchy of the Catholic Church does, is it has this Council of Trent. What does the Council of Trent do? Well, very simply, it reasserts the doctrine of the Church. It clarifies and asserts the doctrine of the Church. And it reforms abuses within the Church. Okay, so it reforms abuses, areas of corruption within the Church. Okay, so that's our definition, right? It sort of asserts doctrine, or reasserts doctrine, and it reforms abuses. So let's look at those two things. By reasserting doctrine, what we'll see is that the Catholic Council of Trent does not accommodate the Protestant theological changes. Instead, it rejects Protestant theology. It rejects Luther's sola scriptura. It rejects his justification by faith alone. It rejects the rejection of saints and the rejection of seven sacraments and all these things. It rejects the replacement of the clergy. And so what it does instead is it reasserts why the Catholic Church has different practices. Okay? So what are some of the things it asserts? The seven sacraments. It explains them, clarifies them. Right? It reasserts the doctrine of transubstantiation when it comes to the Eucharist or communion. It suggests it reasserts the Catholic doctrine that the basis of Christian truth comes from Christian scripture as well as sacred tradition. And so that sacred tradition is in the practices that the Church has been doing for centuries. And so both of these, the Church as well as Scripture, are the sources of Christian truth. It once again asserts the Pope and the Catholic clergy as the final interpreters of Christian truth. When it comes to the Mass will continue to be in Latin, and priests will continue to be celibate. And it reasserts the notion that the priest class, the priests and other religious, nuns, brothers, are a separate class, they're a separate estate, that they are in this spiritual estate that is separate from everyone else as a result of their training, as a result also of the sacraments that they do. So it reasserts traditional church doctrine. Is there any other traditional church doctrines that should be mentioned that are being challenged here during this time? Saints, the notion of saints, the veneration of saints is reasserted. What else? Anything else that you can think of? Okay. Yes. No.
It reaffirms religious education.
Okay, certainly religious education. And this segues to the second point that I made, that this is not just about reassertion of church doctrine, but it's also about reforms of areas, areas that need reform. And one of those areas is education. So the Council of Trent mandates that every diocese has a place where priests are educated. One of the complaints was that many priests were uneducated, illiterate, making stuff up, superstitious, spooking people into believing all these different things. And so the Council of Trent mandates there is a school, a place to educate priests in every diocese. Okay? And we'll also see more education in the aftermath of this, education of lay people as well. This will be a major focus of many different Catholic groups, and we'll talk about those Catholic orders in a second. But certainly within the church, there's a focus of church people making sure they're educated. Okay, in addition to this, we have reforms such as reaffirming the illegality of selling church positions. So, this was a problem, was that people would sell church positions to other people because in those church positions, people could take money from the collections, from the tithe that is collected. And so this is ended, the selling of church positions. Something called pluralism, in which people had multiple jobs at once. This was ended. The Council of Trent mandated that bishops stay in their diocese. So you can't be bishop of San Francisco and live it up in Las Vegas and neglect your job. So there are these changes that are made. Also, the sale of indulgences is clarified and limited so that the abuse of indulgences is not continued. The widespread sale of indulgences, the elaborate promises, the exacting sort of specifications as to how much time you would have less in purgatory, all of that is ended as well. So once again, this reaffirms church beliefs and reforms areas that might have featured abuse or corruption. Okay, religious orders then are part of the Catholic Reformation as well. We've got new orders such as the Jesuits. The Jesuits are also known as the Society of Jesus. They're led by St. Ignatius of Loyola. He's a saint now. And so they are big supporters of the Pope, defenders of the Pope. And they will seek to educate people in the Catholic beliefs. They will seek to educate people. They will seek to spread the Catholic faith in areas where it has been challenged by Protestantism, and to spread the Catholic faith in areas overseas. So Jesuits will be involved in overseas proselytization or conversion efforts as well. Another example of a religious order is the Ursuline Sisters, who are focusing on education of women. Now, it's important to understand that the impact of the Reformation is dramatic. Protestants are affirming the need to read, to be able to read Scripture. You have to be able to read Scripture so that you can affirm Christian truth, so that you can know Christian truth and figure it out. So Catholics, likewise, are emphasizing the need for education too, because education will affirm Catholic beliefs and affirm, and clarify Christian beliefs and allow people to explain their beliefs as well. And so education is used by both Protestant reformers and Catholic reformers to spread their views of what the Christian religion should be like.